Hello! I am so glad that you could be here today. My name is Rich, the channel is called New Memphis, and today we're painting up 7 of the Traitor Guardsmen from the Blackstone Fortress box set. Now, I should be honest here and just admit, in the 40k universe, I don't really like Chaos as a faction or group of factions. In a world where, well, let's be honest here, the good guys themselves are nothing but murderous, trigger-happy religious zealots, all the bad guys can really be is just murderous, trigger-happy religious zealots with horns and spikes. Lots of spikes. But the Traitor Guard are the first exception I've found. To be totally honest, all the grandiosity of the Chaos Space Marines is sort of lost on me in how evil they are. But the Traitor Guard are just average men and women, turning to worshipping some pantheon of dark gods and in doing so, abandoning their friends, their family, and even their fellow guardsmen. That's actually pretty interesting. And speaking of interesting, we have 8 of these Ghoul models, which are my favorite models that came in the Blackstone Fortress box set. We're going to come back to them a little bit later, along with these 3 spindle drones that I didn't use for kit bashing. Now, normal units of the Astra Militarum, or the Imperial Guard, wear a lot of earth tones, mostly khaki and a light-ish green color. Elite units and weapons are painted either black and red, or blue and silver. Which is very interesting, because the default paint scheme for the Traitor Guard has a lot of black and red in it. Anyway, to start these guys off, I primed them in black and then gave them a blast of gray primer just from the very top. Since we'll be using a lot of earth tones and a lot of black later on, I decided to paint their skin a very, very ghostly white. Keeping with the World War theme of the Imperial Guard, I used about 3 parts matte medium to 1 part German extra dark green to paint anything they would have kept with them after falling. That includes helmets, armor panels, magazines, and even canteens. Here was how they looked after they had dried. Admittedly, it's a lot splotchier than I had imagined, but let's see how we can make this work for us. To start with, I'm stippling on some Vallejo flat green onto the areas where the green color was already strongest. Then to really sell the chipped paint effect, I also stippled silver in areas where the primer was still showing through. Some of the armor panels and helmets also have marks and gashes in them, so I reinforced those with a dark wash and then stippled silver around the outside edges. Now, in order to try and keep this video short, I'm going to blitz through a lot of the colors that I was using. I'm just afraid the video would be 2 hours long otherwise. But if you want to try and recreate this paint scheme on your own, here are the paints that I was using. I used Vallejo Cork Brown for any straps and bandages, Black Red and White for the 2 guard dressed in furs, Saddle Brown for anything made of leather, and Mahogany Brown for anything made of wood, which hilariously included the flamethrower. I broke out the flat green once again for any military equipment like grenades, and then used either flat green or black to do any of the capes and cloaks. Now on to the metallics, which admittedly were one of my favorite things to paint. I used silver for the chains, chain mail, and any spikes that looked like they were bursting forth from the armor plates. Then brass for the armored plates and gun barrels, and bronze to do some of the spikes and smaller details. Those last 2 colors are pretty similar, and you could absolutely get away with just using one, but I think upon closer inspection, it just adds a lot of depth to have 2 different tones right beside one another. Finally, I used Vallejo's blue-green and clear orange to do the Grenadier's bottle and the Flamethrower Trooper's fuel tank. Okay, that was a lot of detailed painting. But now that my Traitor Guard are pretty well set up, I think it's time to check in on the Ghouls and the Spindle Drones to see how they've been doing. To start with, I primed each of the Ghouls with one of 4 colors: black, gray, white, or a rusty red. And I just used rattle cans I bought at the store, no airbrushing here. I started by priming the undersides in either gray or white, and then did the tops in black, gray, or red. Hopefully this will make them look more predatory, almost shark-like actually. Next I painted the eyes white, and gave each of the models a black wash to help reinforce the shadows. And while those were drying, I primed the spindle drones in black, and gave them a spray of chrome just from the top. Now, I went through a lot of different color iterations with these, which is why I'm not going to have the next part on camera. There was just too many different sessions of painting and repainting to get, but here was about how it settled. After painstakingly painting each of the teeth, I painted the lips in Carroburg Crimson, painted each of the eyes in yellow and then in flat red, and then dry brushed a little bit of silver onto the faces just to really help make them pop. As for the spindle drones, all that I really did was paint their central eye in red and add a small dot of white to the center, then painted the wire running through them in a single strong color, different for each model. Alright, now on to my absolute favorite part, which was adding the black wash to my fallen guard. Now for those of you who might not know, a dark wash, or in this case my dark wash, is just a mixture of black acrylic ink, water, and a medium, which is just a colorless paint. In my case, a matte medium, which means a medium that should, in theory, dry without any reflectiveness on the actual surface of the model. Not that that usually happens. For those of you who've been paying attention, no, we haven't painted the clothing at all, and I don't plan to. Just adding the dark wash over that, over anything made of leather, wood, metal. However, I am going to leave the brass and the bronze structures pretty much intact. Then, while I was at it, I combined water, matte medium, and Vallejo medium flesh tone to create a wash that I could use on this white fur. And here they finally are after everything was done drying. Coming along pretty nicely, I'd say, and you can really tell how much depth gets added by those shadows. In terms of painting, most of what was left was detail work. I painted the goggles with a radioactive green, added a bit more orange to the fuel tank, and I even tried adding some Carroburg Crimson to the brass paneling, but I ended up not liking this, so I wiped it off pretty soon after. But still, I'm glad that I tried something new and just ended up not liking it, as opposed to not having tried it at all. And lastly, for the Grenadier's bottle, I added a brown wash and then a few dabs of light blue cut with matte medium. After so much time spent detailed painting, I wanted to keep the bases pretty simple, so I used some of these black flakes that I found. They were pretty dusty though, so after gluing them on, I added a layer of matte medium over top of that. And with that done, finally, it was time for the grand reveal. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed going on this journey with me. I have spent weeks working on these 19 model. I can't even count them. Like the true addict that I am simultaneously ready to never look at another miniature again and ready to start the next project. So I hope you'll stay with me on this journey, going down this rabbit hole. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you'll enjoy the next video. Watch New Memphis Minis. You can see me on Instagram to know what I'm working on right now. And honestly, I just hope you guys have a great day.